I believe film critics shouldn't tell you what to think, that you should or shouldn't like a film, but instead enhance your viewing of it so that you understand or appreciate the artistry of the film a little better. In other words, maybe help you think, but not dictate what you will think. Now, I start my review of Let Me In by saying that because the big question anyone who reads or listens to my reviews is probably going to be thinking about is, how is this one different from the original film, the Swedish Let the Right One In? Now, that film is only 2 years old, and most consider it to be the best vampire film in years, maybe in more than a decade. Sorry, Twilight fans. So it's kind of like, why remake it? Of course, Hollywood likes to take foreign films that perhaps don't need to be remade and remake them almost shot for shot, just expecting to get a wider audience in an already established, successful film. That's kind of what happened here, but it works, and almost as a companion piece to the Swedish one. I'm not, if I have to judge the film on its own, it's not bad, and Swedish one, isn't necessarily improved upon by this one, and except for in a few ways. Now, the Swedish film was sort of unique because while there were a few new twists to the vampire story, its focus wasn't on the monster element, but instead on the relationship between a child being forced to deal with things kids shouldn't have to, and a child vampire who seems young but has existed for centuries. And then there's also an older gentleman who's probably also had his life taken from him and never really got to grow up either. And yes, dear readers, I know that in the book this character was an adult when he met the vampire, but the movie version says otherwise, especially the American version with just one little scene, one little glimpse, and you know what message they're trying to say that the other movie only hinted at. Now, just as for the comparisons between the two, it's a little tough to say which you should see if you can only see one, but having to choose, I would actually recommend you see the Swedish one. It's tough because they each do some things better than the other. I think the American one has a wonderful car crash and hunting methodology, which plays great. I think they removed a little of the curiously odd relationship between the boy and his parents. They seem to play the bullying up to the point that it honestly incensed me watching it. Just a little better, and I don't know if that's just because they wanted to crank it up for a revenge element, or the director or writer just kind of knew just how to phrase things a little differently to hit you harder. Now, I also want to say about the American version that while it's hard to judge considering the language barrier of the Swedish version, I do think that Let Me In has the superior acting performances, probably across the board. I'm sure of that, actually. But no, the Swedish one, though, it knew how to hold back. We didn't need to see animalistic and obviously CGI-enhanced attacks and effects, and their choice of how to enhance the swimming pool scene was clearly a mistake to me. It's a little too much and with an unnecessary warning ahead of time. I was very disappointed that they messed up that scene, which a lot of people consider to be one of their favorites and such. But overall, though, if you see this film and are thinking about the brief moments of violence and horror and not of the relationships that at least two people have with the vampire, then maybe this wasn't the film for you, because this works as a drama, and not many horror films can say that. 4 out of 5 stars easy. I do want to say, though, that I really regret missing the original Swedish film in a movie theater, but there's no reason you can't watch it on video before seeing the American film and get even more out of both of them. Probably actually even both 4 out of 5. Again, Swedish one just a little higher, 4.5 maybe out of 5, but there you have it.